A dangerous heat wave from the northern plains to New England is breaking records while the south faces a severe weather threat. Meanwhile, red flag fire warnings have been posted in several western states where a historic drought is threatening a catastrophic fire season. Mola Lenghi reports from Boston.
Boston is under a heat emergency. Temperatures rose above 90 degrees for the third consecutive day.
In the last couple of days, we've had 18 calls that we've flagged as being, directly heat related. But on top of that, we've seen a 31% increase in our call volume for the last 48 hours.
Many flocked to cooling centers and neighboring parks.
Why'd you guys come out here today?
Hot.
It's hot, yeah.
More than 24 million people from the northern plains to New England and parts of Texas are under a heat advisory. Today, at least 6 states set record highs. It was a similar story in Wisconsin, where libraries are offering an escape.
We changed our policy to allow drink in the library so people can bring their water bottle in or fill their water bottle.
Severe drought conditions across the West have helped fuel 2 wildfires in Arizona, forcing hundreds to evacuate homes outside of Phoenix. More than 100,000 acres have burned. In neighboring Utah, the dry conditions prompted the governor to call for a weekend of prayer.
We need more rain, and we need it now. We need some divine intervention.
The heat and humidity also produced scattered severe thunderstorms from Alabama to Texas, where a woman's body was recovered after floodwaters swept her car off the road. More than 100 homes were flooded outside of Houston.
Well, back here in Boston, the extreme heat is expected to continue tomorrow with temperatures above 90s for the 4th day straight. Meanwhile, in Minneapolis, about a dozen schools there have announced they're moving to remote learning, as the extreme heat is expected to continue there for the rest of the week. Elaine?
Mola Lenghi, thank you. For more, let's bring in CBS News meteorologist and climate specialist Jeff Berardelli. Hi there, Jeff. So let's talk about the heat wave. How bad is it and how much longer will it last?
So for this early in the season, this has been a very intense heat wave. Even more so, though, it's a very large heat wave because it covers a large part of the nation, about 2/3 of the country. Now, it's a little complicated because it's trapped a storm system right over here. And so it's a little cooler down in the southeast. In fact, over the weekend, it was around 20 to 25 degrees cooler in New Orleans than it was in Minneapolis, which got to about 100 degrees or so. And the heat is really hugging the Canadian border, as you see. Now, in Mola's piece, he was just talking about the flooding in the south. And the reason is this storm is trapped under the heat dome, so it really can't go anywhere. And so it's been raining for days in the south. We have some rain in Texas today. But this is going to be alleviated a little bit as it begins to move on. Problem is in the south is that it's rain on top of 2 months of 2 to 3 feet of rain, and so it's causing flash flooding. All right, so the heat is going to continue on Tuesday. Some record highs we're expecting. Minneapolis could hit 96, Aberdeen 96 degrees, and in the east, here's another pocket of heat, Boston right around 97 degrees. Now, it's going to cool down a little bit as we head into Wednesday, but the humidity is going to come up. You can see there's rain across the Ohio Valley, and so injecting this humidity in, even if temperatures only get to 89, let's say, not over the 90-degree mark in places like Philly and Washington, D.C., it's still going to feel oppressive with feels like temperatures around 96 degrees on Wednesday.
Well, Jeff, what about the West? The drought is increasing wildfire risk there. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so, you remember last year, of course, that was the worst wildfire season in the history of the West. And this is what the drought looked like last year. So there was drought in certain areas of California, Oregon, into New Mexico and Arizona and Colorado. But look at the difference between last year and this year. Extraordinary drought across the West, the worst we have ever seen. And so we are setting ourselves up for, unfortunately, probably a catastrophic fire season. You can see how dry it is across the West. We have not seen a lot of rain. La Nina, which we had last year, means that we see less rain across the West. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is climate change. Here's something else I want to show you. Now, this is a little convoluted, but I'm going to break it down for you. So this basically shows us the energy available for fire. So if there's a fire, how much energy fuel is available because of how dry it is. Well, the red line is the historic record, January, June, and December right here. Notice how the blue line is where we are right now. Way above the record for the date, but not just way above the record for the date, way above the record for all time across California. And we're just at the beginning of fire season, Elaine.
That is so stark, and so too is that difference in the drought graphics that you just showed year over year. Is climate change a factor here, Jeff?
Yeah, there are a couple of factors. First of all, we've been in a drought now since about the year 2000. In fact, if you look back in history, look at tree rings, scientists have discovered that this is the second worst drought in the last 1,200 years. They're calling it a mega drought. It could be kind of tipping into the worst drought in 1,200 years. We'll see what happens over the next couple of years or so, but climate change is playing a part, and here's how climate change plays a part. Summer warming. You can see most of the country, with the exception of the upper Midwest where there's a lot of irrigation, but over here, around the country, and especially in the West, it is warm. Places like Phoenix, where there was a fire in Arizona during the day today, they have warmed around 4 degrees Fahrenheit just in the last 50 years or so. So when you warm the brush, you warm the ground, you evaporate a lot, you're adding more energy, so you're evaporating a lot of the moisture into the atmosphere, and the ground gets drier and drier. Then on top of that, if you have a La Nina, like we had last year, you have about 2 years or so with very limited rain. Just north of Lake Oroville, which is an important reservoir in California, they've seen 3 to some pockets 4 feet less rain than they're supposed to see just since last October. So in 9 months, their rainfall deficit in some pockets there, 3 feet or more, just to give you an idea of how bad things are in California right now.
Just a confluence of things happening there. Jeff Berardelli for us. Jeff, thank you so much.